The old man shuffled into the courtroom, his wrists loosely bound in front of him, head bowed under the weight of years. The clerk's voice cut through the silence. "State your name." He looked up, eyes tired but dignified, and answered in a quiet, weathered tone. "Henry Marshall, Staff Sergeant, United States Marine Corps." No one in the courtroom could have predicted what was about to unfold. From her bench, Judge Clara Thompson scanned the man's case file with routine detachment until her eyes locked on a name that stirred a deep memory. Her fingers trembled slightly. Henry Marshall. That was the Marine who had carried her brother out of the chaos of Fallujah, a ghost from the past, now standing before her in worn clothes and county cuffs. Henry, now 69, sat quietly on the defendant's bench. His faded military jacket hung loosely on his frail frame, too large for his narrow shoulders. Under the harsh courtroom lights, the lines on his face looked like valleys etched by time and hardship. Decades ago, he'd worn dress blues adorned with medals. Now, he faced judgment in second-hand clothes from a shelter. Case 39C, City of Northbridge versus Henry Marshall, the bailiff announced. The prosecutor, a young man with a crisp suit and a sharp tone, began. "Your Honor, the defendant has been cited 3 times in the last 30 days for loitering behind the Riverside Diner. The business owner has filed formal complaints. He omitted that Henry never begged or caused trouble, simply lingered near the warm air vent at night. On the night of his arrest, he'd politely asked the officer for a moment to finish a sandwich the cook had given him. This is his 3rd citation this year," the prosecutor concluded. "We recommend 30 days of community service and a no trespass order covering downtown Northbridge." Judge Thompson's brow creased. That restriction would cut Henry off from the only local shelter, the church's hot meals, and the warmth he needed to survive. "Mr. Marshall," she said evenly, "do you have legal representation today?" He shook his head. "My lawyer got called to another case. Would you like to speak for yourself?" "No excuses, ma'am," Henry rasped. "Just needed to stay warm." "And why that location?" Henry paused. "The cook, Tommy, leaves food out sometimes. I served with his dad in Desert Storm." "And your service?" she pressed, straying from protocol. "United States Marines, 76 to 96. Staff Sergeant, 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines. Iraq." She made a note in his file, her eyes scanning further. Then the courtroom doors swung open. A tall man in a gray suit strode in, setting a briefcase on the defense table. "Your Honor," he said confidently. "Daniel Foster, just retained to represent Mr. Marshall." Henry turned, bewildered. I can't afford, you won't need to," the man whispered. "My firm's covering it pro bono." Judge Thompson's eyes narrowed. This court wasn't notified. "A recent development," Foster replied smoothly. "Requesting a 15-minute recess to consult my client." She hesitated, then nodded. "Granted." In her chambers, Judge Thompson removed her glasses, hands shaking. 20 years on the bench, and nothing had prepared her for this. She opened a drawer and pulled out a faded photo, her younger self beside her brother, Lieutenant Michael Thompson, in full dress uniform. His last letter from Iraq lay folded nearby. In it, Michael had written about a battle near Fallujah. His unit was pinned down, but Staff Sergeant Marshall charged in, dragged Michael to safety under fire, and covered the retreat. "If not for him," Michael wrote, "none of us would have made it." 2 weeks later, an IED took Michael's life. At the funeral, a Marine approached her. "Your brother saved my life," he said. "I was the one he carried." He hadn't said Murray didn't need to. Back in the courtroom, Foster conferred briefly with Henry, then stood. "We request dismissal." "Mr. Marshall wasn't trespassing. He was surviving. We have witnesses to confirm he had implied permission to be there." The prosecutor started to object, but Judge Thompson raised a hand. "Mr. Marshall," she said, turning to Henry, "your file mentions Fallujah, 2004. Is that accurate?" "Yes, ma'am." "Were you part of an operation on April 19th, near the western sector?" He nodded slowly. "We were ambushed, escorting a convoy. I pulled out a wounded lieutenant. Wouldn't leave him. He kept yelling for me to help others. Brave kid." A gray-haired man in the gallery stood. "That's him. That's Staff Sergeant Marshall. I was there. He saved 6 of us." The courtroom stirred. Judge Thompson tapped her gavel. "Order." When the room quieted, she stood. We'll recess for 10 minutes. As she left, she met Henry's eyes. Mr. Marshall, when I return, we'll discuss matters beyond this case. In her office, she picked up the phone. Colonel Hayes, it's Clara Thompson. I need a favor. Urgent. 10 minutes later, she returned with 3 Marines in full dress. A colonel, a sergeant major, and a corporal carrying a wooden case. The room gasped. Henry instinctively stood. The colonel stepped forward. Staff Sergeant Marshall, under directive from the Secretary of the Navy, in recognition of your valor on April 19, 2004, your Silver Star is hereby upgraded to the Navy Cross. The room buzzed with murmurs. Henry's eyes widened. This must be a mistake, he murmured. No mistake, the colonel replied. And long overdue. Someone in the back called, attention on deck. One by one, veterans, officers, and civilians stood and saluted. Even the prosecutor rose. Judge Thompson's voice wavered as she struck the gavel. All charges dismissed. This court is adjourned. A Marine approached with a tablet. Your VA rating has been corrected. 100% service-connected, back pay included. What does that mean? Henry asked softly. It means housing, medical support, effective immediately, Foster said, leaning close. We'll make sure it's handled. Then Tommy, the diner cook, stepped forward, tears in his eyes. My dad always talked about the Marine who saved him. Said if I ever met a man named Henry Marshall, I owed him everything. I didn't know it was you not until now. The prosecutor approached next. Sir, please accept my apology. Judge Thompson stepped down from the bench and stood before Henry. My brother wrote that no Marine gets left behind not while he was breathing. Today, Staff Sergeant Marshall, we return the promise. 2 weeks later, Henry stood in his modest new apartment, part of a veterans housing program. On the wall hung his medals, newly restored. A knock came. Judge Thompson stood at the door, holding a box. May I? Just Henry, he said. Then it's just Clara, she replied. Inside, she opened the box and handed him letters from Michael. One read, Staff Sergeant Marshall saved me. I ordered him to leave, but he said, not a chance, not while I can still walk. He talked about you often, Clara said. Said you were the Marine he hoped to become. Henry's voice broke. I'm not a hero. That's what heroes always say, she replied. He died living by your example. They sat in silence as snow fell outside. Finally, Henry whispered, For years, I thought no one remembered. That none of it mattered. It did, she said. To Michael, to every Marine you saved, and to me. As she rose to leave, she placed a hand on his shoulder. Michael once said a Marine's worth is what he does when no one sees. You live that. Henry stood tall. Someone remembered my name, he said softly. And in that moment, something broken began to mend.